Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to reference two articles. One is from Gizmodo. Rand Paul says he'll make a criminal referral to the Department of Justice against a top expert. And Yahoo News from the Washington Examiner. Rand Paul says this top expert will be subject of criminal referral letter to Justice Department. Before we get to the referral to the Justice Department, let's talk about what America's top medical expert, a man revered by the Democratic Party primarily because he can serve as a foil to President Trump. Mean Orange Trump, according to Democrats, was the reason for this catastrophe the past year. They tried to impeach him. Think about this for a second. Hit subscribe to this channel right now because I'm going to get to the word games and the deception that this doctor engaged in within his testimony, and I'm going to explain the manner in which words are used to deceive by individuals who don't want to accept culpability or responsibility for a catastrophe that affected the world. I'm also going to explain why the truth could be very detrimental to the Democratic Party because it absolves Trump of guilt. They cannot look at the truth. Democrats cannot look at the truth. Media can't. And anything that might benefit Trump politically, even if he's right, whether it was the origins of you-know-what, or the fact that funding from these revered institutions inadvertently was used for something horrific. If anything benefits President Trump at all, they don't want to even look at it. So hit subscribe right now. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. I'll begin doing segments again on that channel. I've been focused on live streams, and I will have a live stream later today, probably around 5 or 6 p.m. Pacific. But I want to read you what Rand Paul is going to do. Senator Rand Paul said he plans to send a letter to the Justice Department regarding a criminal referral focused on Falsey. The Kentucky Republican insists the doctor, who is President Joe Biden's chief medical advisor, lied to Congress about the National Institute of Health funding, at a certain location where this very likely emanated from, in a facility. So, President Trump, number one, was right to level suspicion. They don't want, and this is the thing, politically, they don't want any suspicion leveled at them or any other country. They want all the suspicion and innuendo and conjecture and blame and political fallout to go to one man, Trump. They don't want to even, they're being forced to look at how this all started. What happened is Falsey, during the testimony, what he stated was technically accurate, but not truthful. He pointed to a report that states there was no funding for the specific type of research that Rand Paul is accusing him of having funded. So what he has stated numerous times is there was no funding specifically placed for this type of research. Therefore, Rand Paul is wrong. What Rand Paul is saying is that the type of activity that Falsey and others denied took place regardless of whether, see, this is the important caveat or the important piece of information that you would need to know to see how, to understand why these people could be lying through their teeth. Whether or not it was specifically allocated, whether the funding was specifically allocated for a certain type of research, is not relevant to Rand Paul, nor should it be relevant to anyone else. The type of research took place at that location. The funding for the research that could have caused this entire global catastrophe was funding that was given to this facility by revered American institutions. Okay, if I'm speaking in a long-winded manner, it's like, it's the world we live in, and I'm trying to do the best I can swimming upstream. And so, what Falsey says is, we have qualified experts that agree with me, and even though the money went to the location where all of this emanated, we don't know if it started from a specific facility, and the money allocated from the United States, from a previous administration, by the way, that money was not meant to, was not utilized, was not meant to be, so here, what he's saying is it was not meant to be used to fund a very controversial form of research. So, amid a tense exchange with Paul on Tuesday, he denied that he lied to Congress during testimony in May when he denied the NIH funded a certain type of research at the lab. Senator Paul, you do not know what you're talking about, quite frankly. I want to say that officially. You did not know what you were talking about. So within the criminal referral that he's going to send to the Department of Justice, he's going to explain that whereas the doctor states, well, the funding was not utilized for that purpose based on all the information we have in the form of a report and in the form of, the legislation the documentation that warranted the funding. The reality is, it wasn't, they still engaged in the practice, and they almost certainly had to use money from the funding for another endeavor to fund potentially a catastrophe that affected the entire planet, including this country still. Now, if you say, you know what, I don't know what you're talking about, the article is below, and the real issue is not whether Rand Paul is right, is categorically, because he stated numerous times, he doesn't know categorically if the money that we sent was used to create this catastrophe. What he has stated always was that we should never have been sending money there in the first place because that location was engaged in a certain type of research that is linked to this or that could be linked to this catastrophe, and the funding could have been used for that purpose. If you listen to Falsey, it was never even a possibility to begin with. That's the issue of contention. Facebook and others suppressed any information pertaining to Trump's original claim of how it originated. Now we know Trump was right to be suspicious. Rand Paul was ignored by many people. Now we know he was right to be suspicious. Suspicion is an emotion that shouldn't only be leveled at Trump. he's told the truth infinitely more than the Democratic Party and media. Just look at the way Twitter suspended the New York Post's account right before November. Just look at every single day media and scholars and experts saying that Trump worked with Russia when he didn't. You can look at the manner in which science and safety, we shut down American society and our economy, and now we're back. We might be back again to the same type of thing because people, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different outcome. Stay tuned. This is very interesting, and this is a developing story. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. Be here for the live stream later today. The links will be below in the description section. Thank you. If you want to support my voice long-term, my Patreon is below.